Hello everyone, welcome to another rapid speedrun game against Eileen Jin, rated 1739, who plays Scandinavian. Queen a5? No, a check. So Scandinavian but not theory. We've seen this many times. We just block with the bishop, a free developing move. We then develop a knight with tempo, a free developing move. Not good. Then we play d4, create a pawn presence in the center, open our bishop. He just makes a pawn move to maybe stop our knight from harassing his queen, but we can harass it from a different square if we feel like it. Would love to go bishop f4, but that currently hangs. So let's castle. He develops his bishop. I don't see a threat. I do not see a threat. So I moved my bishop to e2 to block the check. Now that it's here, you can move it to c4, which is more active. He probably wants to castle long, though. I wonder if there's anything we can do specifically against that. Well, in any case, he never played knight f6. So we can always try to play d5. Where can his knight go? It could potentially go here. But then my knight could jump in the center with the newly opened square. And I think that kind of looks good for me. So I'm going to go for that. You could just continue your development. You could maybe go a3, setting up b4, b5 ideas. But he does what we calculated. He jumps the knight in the center. If you take and he takes, I mean, you can play f4, but that's just a one move threat. You can also play rook e1, but let's jump our knight in the center. Keep more pieces on the board. It comes with a threat. And now his knight's vulnerable to bishop and pawn f4. So I like this. He retreats his bishop 1, but now his bishop is vulnerable to pawn to f5. But that normally takes two moves, but because of the placement of his knight, we can tempo it and then go f5 as if it was only one move. But let's make sure he doesn't have counterattacks. If we go f4, what can he do? Where we are weakening the diagonal, but our knight's blocking it. Our queen is protecting the knight. I don't see any counter tricks by him. So let us kick the knight, followed by trapping the bishop, which is the real goal of f4. Destabilizing the knight is just a along the way bonus, a means to an end. We would want to destabilize it anyway, but we might have gone bishop f4 instead of pawn f4. But because pawn f4 traps a piece, I'm definitely choosing the pawn over the bishop. But if it didn't trap a piece, then there's an argument to be made for pinning the knight, not just kicking it and having a weird pawn on f4. So he sacks the piece, but now we can take, improve our piece for free. Okay, his queen goes in the center. It's touching a lot of things. We have to be a little careful that we don't blunder anything. It's not dangerous, but since we're up a piece, a queen trade is an automatic win. Our development's incredible, absolutely incredible. I mean, a knight on f5. Look at his army. I mean, it looks such a disparity is what I'm trying to say. You would have bishop here, but your knight's a little loose. You don't have a check to win the queen. I mean, we could go for a queen trade if we wanted. He's down a piece, so he'll likely avoid the trade. But if he avoids the trade, then our queen is super strong on the centralized square. So we win either way. Okay, he goes for a queen trade, but on his terms to get his piece back in the game. But we don't have to trade him. We don't have to take him. We could take him, and when he takes back, then finally develop our bishop to f4 with tempo. He actually can't develop the knight conveniently, but if he moves it, he hangs stuff. However, we don't need to go pawn grabbing. That is a little unnecessary and greedy at the same time. However, developing your piece is not greedy, so Let's trade the queens and let's develop a piece, which is not greedy. We're connecting our rooks. 3 turns. 1, 2, 3. At least 3 turns before black. Maybe he goes the other way, but we'll see. Really 4 turns, because he has to deal with the knight right now. So he's so far behind as far as castling. What does that mean? That means, let's say I have 3 improving moves to make by the time he castles. So I could hop a knight a couple times. I could improve a bishop maybe. So you can make those moves. Okay, he retreats the knight back to where it was. If I take this pawn, he's going to put a rook over. I mean, I can move the bishop back then. Just snatch the pawn. I really don't want to grab a pawn though. It's so lame. What else can I do? I can improve this bishop. I can improve this rook. I can improve one of those pieces, definitely. Let's do that. Let's put the bishop here, which looks ridiculous, these 3 pieces in a row, but look how cool it is. They cover so many squares, and I don't know what shape this is, but it's cool. So he spends an entire turn, defending the pawn, which I didn't even want to take. So I'm thinking a rook here and a rook here looks quite nice. This is blocked, right? So even though the f-file normally would be nice for the rook, let's move it over 1. Now, why this rook and not the other one first? Normally, you would prioritize the other one, since the f rook has some sort of job. But this one is opposite the king. I didn't want him breaking out, so I want to utilize this immediately. He hits my knight, which, admittedly, didn't have much to do in this current location. Can we just sacrifice? He takes. Now his bishop's in a pin. We take advantage of the pin. He takes the pawn, but we take back, and the only way to defend would be knight to g8, but then I go knight d5 at another attacker. Maybe he takes the pawn, but I mean, his king's in trouble, so let's just take it. So you can add pressure like this. There's also this weird alignment, and you can double your rooks. So you can add pressure with your rooks, your bishop, and your knight. You could also just maintain the pin, but you always have to check if he could just move his king and get out of it, because you don't want that. Because you don't want to have cashed in your chips for something that you let him run away, and then you have nothing to show for it. Because I just sacked the piece, right? Like, you didn't need to sack the piece. You could have moved it back. So if you're going to sack the piece, make sure. What did he take? He takes my knight. This in no way, shape, or form solves his problems. In fact, it compounds his problems severely. And the line that I mentioned was probably his best try. This just hangs everything. So he takes my knight. I'm going to intermezzo take the bishop. So there already we just traded pieces, and now he has a rook hanging and a king loose. Okay, so now we're up a rook with the bishop pair and an attack on his king. So he might resign. He should resign. After 4,220 games, Eileen Jin surely knows what's about to happen. Surely. Surely they're a masochist, a glutton for punishment, and a 1700 who once again makes a rook move to defend a pawn. Misevaluating. The pawn is worth 1. The rook is worth 5. If your rook suddenly babysits your pawn, it's no longer worth 5. So perhaps give up the pawn. Activate the rook maximally, and you'll still get the better of the exchange. Anyway, he goes there. As my clock dwindles, I will now take his knight. If he takes with the king, I get the rook and I win a piece. If he takes with the knight, defending the rook, I'll still take the rook. He'll take. I'll just be up my rook, but with lots of liquidation, which I'm happy about. Because I'm up a clean rook, why wouldn't I be happy with liquidation when that liquidation removes all of his rooks from the board? If he doesn't have rooks, not to mention this pawn's hanging, but then he could, there's in no way, shape, or form can he contest with such a long-range sniper piece with a knight. It's just not a thing. Knights versus rooks are terrible. So um, let's just take more free stuff. We'll then put the bishop, I don't know, here. He's hanging everything. Okay, he defends it. We can get our rook in somewhere. We're up 7 points of material. 3 passed pawns over here. I mean, I'm just curious just to see if his king goes back the other way. It does. Okay. I mean, let's attack the knight, counterattack. It's funny. Might as well. He actually trades, which is just another terrible idea. Then he goes down, which is another terrible idea. Because once your king goes down, you can never catch a pawn that's going up. And now he resigns. Like it was ever in question. So we get a Scandinavian. And I'm actually excited to gain experience against, playing against the Scandinavian. I'm excited for them to go down one of the theoretical lines. Like, I don't know theory, but I do know the beginning couple of moves. I know Queen A5 is the best, most theoretical main move. Queen D6 is, a more recent modern attempt that's also pretty cool and probably my favorite from black. And then the Queen D8 is, it just gives white an extra tempo in addition to the starting move. So it's clearly just not as good as the other two, but like I know that. But then when they play something else, it's like now I can't even gain experience against, those 3 tries because they do this ridiculous thing that lets me develop for free. And yeah, I mean, if you look at the graph, 2 inaccuracies, but nothing else. So 97%. Let's go through the game. So yeah, he forces us to develop and prepare castling. And now develop center for free. And now center and development. King safety and development. And you see they're even saying like castling is one of my 2 inaccuracies. So that's just the engine being the engine. As far as like talking to another human, perfectly acceptable move. It says white's already +1. And we didn't do anything but bring our pieces out in castle. Now, if I look at the engine, D5 is the best move by at least half a pawn. Now at a pawn. It's at least a pawn better than rook E1. So rook E1 is +1. D5 is over +2. So D5, which we played and found at the right time, destabilizes his knight and gives our knight a new square with tempo on the bishop. And not only tempo on the bishop, but if he refuses to give us the bishop pair right now and retreats like he does, then he's walking directly into that tactical sequence. So we did these moves as just general good developing moves. We didn't see so far ahead that we knew this tactic was there until he moved his bishop back. Now this is something you definitely could have seen beforehand if you wanted, but we didn't even. We were just trying to make good developing logical moves, and this arose from the situation. He goes here, which what could be more natural than bishop g6, right? Like how many of you would have just, oh, it's attacked, bishop g6, automatic, like instantly. You wouldn't have even thought about it. Like obviously, isn't this the move? Well, no, because you walk directly into my tactic, and it's +4. So you lose the game, you lose the bishop. Both of our knights are developed in the center. Our bishops have open diagonals. Rook has open line. Queen has a lot of scope. Look at all that pressure, right? And then look at black. A bishop that's trapped, a knight that's on the second rank, not in the center, and a queen that's stifled. That's it. And not castled. It's incomparable even if the bishop was not trapped. So you have to be careful when moving your queen in the opening. Just don't do it, actually. So he gives up the piece, and we take, of course, for free. He goes here, and okay, you can develop your bishop, you can move your king, but just end the game with the queen trade. It's +4, you're up a piece. It's an amazing queen if he doesn't take. He just leaves it there, now have an amazing queen. But we take because it comes with development for free, forcing him into a worse position. And now, yeah, you see, Engine says if you want to be absolute best, take the pawn, but just as good as Rook A1 or the move we made. Well, now it's switched and says my move is the best, Bishop F. Well, now it says they're tied, but whatever. Anyway, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to take the pawn though. And just if you want to just try to get stronger at chess, try to develop instead of grabbing that pawn. And then once you're titled, you can go, if you want to get even stronger, then go back to taking the pawns and try to survive the position while you're snatching pawns like a super GM. But other than that, when you're not a super GM, try to just bring in more pieces in development. You're going to have more overall, the possible tree of lines is going to be so much better, more solid, more advantageous, with higher win rates than the other lines where you're risking stuff and helping black develop to c8 with tempo. Anyway, tangent, we just develop and center. Improve a piece for free towards the king. His best move is actually king d8, just to get out of this alignment. And that's why I told you I chose this rook over this rook, which looks more natural and intuitive. Because this alignment's ridiculous. There's already pressure with the knight, so we can sack like we did in the game. There's these ideas, so lots going on. In hindsight, the one benefit to taking this pawn would be not the pawn itself, but that it ruins black's control over d6. That pawn controls d6. So when I push d6, he could take. But if that pawn's not there and I play d6, this pawn's pinned. So he can't do anything. So that would be the one benefit to having taken the pawn. Anyway, he hits the knight, and the best move in the position is to sack the knight. We found it. d6. Knight takes e7. Even the second best move is d6, which also sacks the knight. Funny enough. So we sack the knight. He takes. Now we take advantage of the pin, improving our position for free. He takes. Force move for free. And now he just sacrifices everything, which doesn't make sense. So they're saying his best move at +6 is just castle and hang the bishop. Because you're going to lose it anyway. I'm just curious, what if he tries? He's obviously lost at +6 no matter what he does. If he tries this weird knight retreat, then it does say go knight d5, right? Which is what I calculated. So he's going to lose this piece no matter what now. I thought maybe he'll just go pawn grabbing, sack the piece, trade some stuff. Oh, I guess you would take with the bishop, which is more devastating, maybe. And you would get a position like this. Even if you take with the rook, who cares? And there's nothing for him to do. You're just up a bunch of material, a piece. And look at his king. So, anyway, hopefully you learned something from that. Moral of the story, don't play the Scandinavian unless you're going to learn theory, because it breaks principles. So either you play like a computer who don't need principles, or you play like a human and don't play this way and play principle chess instead. Goodbye.